Ognen. Ognen. Test, 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 test. Abonnieren. Test, 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 test.
I don't know, is this working? Working, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope that you had a nice lunch. I really like the dessert, and I know it's going to be a little bit hard to follow because the blood pressure goes down. But these young people here from my left side have a lot to say, and I think it's worth of you like pushing a little bit harder and giving attention to them. Before I start introducing them, I want to say one fun fact, because it says, leading our way, young leaders take the stage. The average age, including me, of this panel is 26.7 years, so all of us, but all of us combined have 58 years of experience in the fields we do. So it's not that we are just, you know, randomly ended up here. So I'm going to start introducing from Katarina Popovic, who is on my left side. She's coming from Serbia. Yesterday during a session, Katarina just casually mentioned that she went to Japanese aviation school and she has a pilot license, which is unfortunately valid only in Japan. But she's currently a graduate student at the Faculty of Political Sciences in Belgrade, pursuing a degree in peace, security, and development. She was a political intern at the United Nations office in Belgrade for 6 months and a part of Western Balkans Fund internship program. She is also a young independent journalist, actively addressing issues regarding disinformation and hate speech in the Serbian press, and engaged in activities related to United Nations Women, Peace and Security and Youth, Peace and Security agendas in the region. So this is Katarina. Next to her is Ferid Murseli, coming from Kosovo. He is from Pristina, and he is engaged for more than 10 years in implementation of projects that have to do with exchange of youth and fostering of youth in decision-making processes. Ferid, from 2009, has been engaged in several local non-governmental organizations as a project and program manager, and during this period he had chances to implement regional projects with partners from different countries. Recently, his work was focused on working with youth from political parties and youth who are members of municipal assemblies. Next to Ferid, sorry Ferid, but I hope you don't mind this gaffe, is Ania Sauku. Ania is 20 years old and she is coming from Tirana, Albania. She is currently in her second year of studying law at the European University in Tirana. Her activism started early on her participation in various activities in civil society. Currently, she is an active member of the United Nations Youth Association Albania, where she further develops the core elements of her activism, such as climate action, intersectional feminism, mental health, reduced inequalities, and youth employment. From July 2021 to December 2022, she held a position as one of the United Nations Youth Delegates of Albania. Next to Ania is Dimitrije Jovicevic, to whom I promised that I'm going to pronounce his last name correctly, because usually people say Jovicevic. I just need to find you. Okay. Dimitrije is coming from Montenegro. He holds a degree in philosophy, international studies, and economics from, I don't know how to pronounce, Ca' Foscari University in Venice. He served as a governing board member of the Regional Youth Cooperation Office, RYCO, and gained professional experience at the European Parliament's Directorate for External Policies at UNITAR's Division for Peace. He is presently working as a policy and program development consultant for international organizations and Brussels-based networks. Next to him is Domenika Vondrackova, another last name which was kind of hard to pronounce. Domenika has always been interested in people around the world, about their thinking, culture, and problems. This brought Domenika to work towards topics such as migration with the Czech Ministry of Interior, Human Rights and Democracy, Forum 2000 Foundation, and EU Security and Defense with the Czech Ministry of Defense. For the last 2 years, she has been working for the Czech presidency in the EU on the security and defense agenda, and now continues in the same sphere with focus on Ukraine. And last but not least, the man who you first hear and then see, the one who doesn't need mic. His name is Ognen Janeski, from North Macedonia, editor-at-large, TV host, author, consultant, and human rights activist. In his 35 years of life, Ognen has more than 20 years of work experience, starting as a TV host at the age of 11. Ognen is specialized for ad hoc, long-lasting, multilingual live TV broadcast. This is a complicated one. And hosting and editing of call-in TV shows, which became the stamp of his journalistic career, by which he is regarded as the most influential one in North Macedonia. So my name is Azam Kurtic. I'm a journalist usually dealing with happy topics of high corruption, war crimes, and organized crime. So this is kind of a fresh change for me to start with these people, and I would like to, because I introduced you last, Ognen. I said when we were talking in the preparation of this panel, I said that I want to start about passion, because the passion is what brought all of us here, and we are passionate about the things we do. So Ognen, what's your passion, please? And let us hear that voice.
Round of applause before.
Yeah, so thank you, Azam, for introducing us, and thank you for giving me the chance to be the first at my probably last panel in my life as a young person, because I'm the oldest one here, so the elderly council will be speaking. When we are talking about passion, it's very important that when I decided that I wanted to be TV personality, when I decided that I wanted to enter this world, there was this drive where I wanted to share all the informations and all the knowledge that I'm gathering throughout the years to share with other people. Someone will say that this is probably that I'm probably a professional gossiper. But yeah, but when you don't gossip but share those informations and that knowledge, then you're just a journalist. And the passion that drives me, because as a character, as a personality, I'm very introvert, even though I work in a very extrovertial profession, is that the idea that I wanted to do something with my life which will be memorable, but not for me, but for the society in general. Because I understood at a young age, because you read in the intro that I started when I was 11, because but I will tell you about this in the next event, which I'm moderating from 6 o'clock. I will not tell you now. I had a turnover in my life that just gave me the moment of knowing that we shouldn't spend our life without taking it seriously, but at the same time doing the things that we love with passion, but for everyone else in the society, not for ourselves. Because whatever you do in your life, you do it for yourself. But you should try and go on the outwards of what you do, because this is what is important for us.
Thank you, Ognen. I totally agree with that part, don't take life seriously, and someone I think who took life a little bit seriously and went into really serious structures is Domenika, who's coming from, as I said, Czech Republic and working in the security and defense. But when we were preparing this panel, you told me you want to speak about your passion, which is take the floor.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the kind introduction, for having me, and for all of you to come to listen. It's honored. Actually, you're mentioning that it's more serious, but I could relate to many of what you said, because my passion, or something I was always interested, is the world around us, different cultures, different nationalities, how we can help each other, and how we can coexist in this world. And through that, I was also trying to be useful. So I think I was merging the ways how I can be useful and at the same time do something I really love and I'm interested in. So that's why I followed this path that led me up here to the security sector and to the EU policies. And I try to use my best abilities to be helpful through that to those who were less privileged than myself.
Can I keep this mic on all the time? Okay, because it's making a lot of sound and it's a little bit... But about that, another man who's like we met in Berlin last year, and like since then we met randomly on a couple of places. But also during the preparation of this panel, I made a mistake. I started with European institutions, European this, that, and then we ended up on European Parliament. And then I asked you, what's wrong with you, because you went into political stuff. So how that passion brought you to that political sphere of life?
And I'm gonna correct you once again. It's more policy than politics. And I think actually most of the people here in the room are in a way connected to policy development and in general programming. And I would go a little bit further back in the past and actually echo what two of you have already said. I think part of me. Part of my passions was also giving back to the community. And I wouldn't necessarily call it activism, the term that we use here in Europe. There's a very nice term in the States, which they use to describe how you're giving back to the community, and it's called community service. And I would say in that regard, it is part of my passions, giving back to the community. On the other hand, I'm also very keen on exploring different cultures, because I feel like that helps me build my identity. And finally, there's something that I really like to enjoy, and that's reading political philosophy. And with all three of them combined, I sort of channeled my passions through policy making and policy development. That is how I ended up, in this field, because in my view, this is how I can make the most of contributions to really changing things on the ground.
Thank you, and thank you for correcting me one more time. I kind of did that mistake on purpose, just to get back to it. Dafina did a great job, and thank you for bringing these people here, because another amazing person sitting with us, and the youngest one on this panel, is Ania, who, again, when we were preparing this panel, was really, really passionate and emotional about telling about things that she does. So Ania, please, if you can repeat. I know that the passion will come out, but next 2 minutes are yours.
Thank you, Azam. Well, hello everyone. I know it's lunchtime, so it might be a bit feeling a little bit sleepy. As for my passions, it's always really difficult to say when people ask you out front, what are your passions? Because I suddenly feel like I'm doing a letter of motivation to apply for something, and I have to summarize my entire life existence in 300 words. So I'm just feeling okay, what are my passions? But I think when you said my bio, you summarize it really well. And there was a part when you were repeating, and I was like, did I really write all of those things? Because now I realize that it's really difficult to read it out loud and repeat all of those things. But I have to admit that, yes, I love all of the things that Azam mentioned. Like, I'm really passionate about climate, and especially its intersection with the world and activism. I proudly call myself a feminist, and I try my hardest to approach intersectionality. I know that when we live in the Balkans, saying that you're a feminist always comes with the side eye that, oh, really? That's a really fun discussion that you're having, and especially in roundtables that are not like this roundtables where people are actually informed and they try their best. For some of you, it might be your profession. For some of the others, might be the passion. But as a young girl in Albania, I've been lucky enough because I am privileged enough to be in certain spaces. But I know that it's not the same case for everyone that is out there. And I really like to do the thing that, it's the most things that people do not expect, which is to live my life authentically and to not take anything from people that say that I have to live my life a certain way. And to me, that is what really drives me forward, is first that the world that we've come to live in is actually really interesting, and I love learning about all the way, like all of my peers around here that have different passions about different cultures. I think it's just very exciting to be living in a time when we have so much given to us, but at the same time, it's so scary to live in a time when we have so much things that can be taken away from us. And I am right at that intersection where I try to, appreciate the things that have been given to me, and at the same time really try hard to keep things that might be taken away from me, not just from me, but from us, which is essentially first our planet. Like, we would not have any of these discussions if we cannot live in a livable planet. So that takes it out of the discussion. And all of these other kind of things that I call it a 5-year bingo card, which is essentially all of the worst things that you could possibly imagine happening just in 1 year shortage of each other. Like, first we had the pandemic, then we had the war, and now we have the climate change. And I'm just thinking, like, I did not sign up for this. And I don't think any one of us signed up. But what I'm passionate about is honestly trying to go out there in the world, to witness its beauty, and to have courage to gather with other people, with my community, with my friends, with my family, and see how we can change the status quo, even a little bit, even if it doesn't matter, even if you look at outside the window and you're like, okay, but what did I do that made a difference today, or what did I not do? Because I'm not one of those people that think that you can make a small difference every single day. I've had those days that I've done absolutely nothing, just stay in bed, binge Netflix, and I think it's totally okay, because no one is expecting you to be a Marvel hero and go out there to save the world every day. But having those days that count, that you go out there with your friends, enjoy in the community, write policies that help shaping people's better, change people's perception by living your life authentically, I think that is simply you just existing is making a difference. So to me, that is what my passion is, just showing people that your existence is worth in this world, and I'm glad that you're here so we can try and shape it and not change it, because change is such a big word. Like, I just get intimidated by saying, but we can restructure it together, and I think that's fun.
Thank you, Ania. I agree with you. Yes. Okay, that's nice. Show that you're listening, actually. Thank you very much. And you said one really, really important thing. I am privileged. All the people sitting here, we are coming from the positions of privilege. Some of us have it more, some of us have it less, but we are privileged, and we cannot speak in the name of the youth majority in our countries. We can speak about personal experiences, and I think it's very important to share those experiences, because in the audience there is a lot of people who are dealing with policy making, as Dimitrije does, and if you manage to pick up something and change policies that's going to help youth in a further development, I'm going to be really happy. Then I'm going to say that we succeeded with this panel and this conference in the end. Coming from Kosovo, as I already said, from Pristina is Ferid. Our countries share similar past, and we can compare to a lot of things, but I want to hear your experiences on pursuing your passions, how that went and what that is.
Okay, thank you, Azam, very much for the introduction. Ognen, my friend, I understand you about the age. I feel you. So we are in the same position. I want also to thank Western Balkan Fund for such an opportunity, because this 3 days here I really met new people, and I can say for sure that 30% of the Western Balkan population, if it would be this conference hall, the situation would be much better than it is now. So thank you once more for this opportunity. Related to my passion, I was like on the first year of my studies, and I didn't have a clue about the civil sector, about the NGOs. I was like a young student who was keen on watching basketball games and studying. So it was just that. And one of my friends was part of some network of activists who were like, were doing actions in protection of human rights, in promoting human rights in the Pristina. It was called My Initiative, part of the organization Youth Initiative for Human Rights. It was like a regional organization. And I just went there to see what they are doing, like, and I went once, then I went twice, and I a bit started to feel these guys there who were trying somehow to protect the ones whose the human rights were like harmed by people or institutions. And I started liking that, and I become part. And what I learned really there was that you cannot judge or take the decisions but without putting yourself in their position or in their shoes. And that helped me a lot understand my passion. And from that day, I was totally within the youth and trying like to do activities and projects which will empower them and also raise their voice, especially when we know that I came from a country where around 70% of population is under 35 years old. So it means we have a lot of youth and we need to empower them. So working with youth is my passion, and seeing them like heading into the future, especially now that I'm working also with the political youth forums of political parties, is to increase their capacities and to make like politicians with integrity for the future.
Thank you very much. Yeah, go ahead. That's right. Katarina, someone whose enthusiasm for me was really, really impressive in a way to dig in the deepest moments of our societies, which is internet, which is hate speech and news reporting. And then she kind of said that that's her passion, and I think me and the rest of the people will need a little bit of explanation on that topic. How did you get there?
Okay, hello everyone. I must say this is my first panel in person, so thank you for having me. Thank you. So, okay, talking about passion, it's very hard for me to say what specifically, like one thing I'm most passionate about, because I'm a very, very passionate person, very enthusiastic. And yesterday at this mentorship program for pitching, we were talking about inner children, and I realized this is due to my big inner child in me. So I'm passionate about a lot of things. It's hard for me to notch down exactly what. Like in life, I wanted to be a pilot, so I tried the airplane. I realized it's not for me. Then I wanted to be a lawyer, sheesh. And then I actually did a bachelor's degree in general linguistics, and I loved linguistics. However, the problem is in the Balkans, there's not a big scene for it, and I was a bit lost at some point because I realized, okay, I don't want to be a university professor. What am I going to do? Being a journalist is difficult. So yeah, I was a bit lost, and then I attended this panel called the Dialogue Academy for Young Women, organized by the OSCE mission in Serbia and Kosovo, which gathered 10 women from Kosovo, 10 women from Serbia. And it was life-changing for me, actually, because it was the first time I was really faced with these kind of different realities. And even though I moved around a lot in life, I lived in Canada, I lived in Japan, I lived in Vojvodina in North Serbia, and I moved around a lot, and I love cultures, and I love languages, and I studied linguistics because of this. It was very, very inspiring, and like hearing all these different opinions and sides, and how reality is so different for us. We grow up in different discourses, and which is misused by the media, and it just divides us all the time. And then a year later, I did an internship at the UN office in Belgrade, which is a liaison office for the UN mission in Kosovo. So we had a lot of activities in Pristina. We did a lot of youth assemblies. And then one of my main activities there, one of my main tasks was to monitor tabloids. Political news and tabloids, which is like reading sci-fis. So I would wake up every morning, I would read the tabloids and look at headlines like, oh, Russia is launching a, I don't know, space operation on the US. I mean, it's absurd. So I was doing these kind of reports every week where I would write about trends. And there is so much hate speech. And it's such a shame because before I started doing this, I did all these programs where I met people, where I saw how much in common we have and how much we could like coexist in a very peaceful way, but it's not happening because of these things. So it sparked a passion in me because it was revolting, it was disappointing. So that's why I also I joined the Independent Journalists Association. I started addressing these things, and this is my biggest passion for now. And other than that, I'm really into arts, into cinema, into music, into everything. So I'm passionate about a lot of things, but what I want to pursue in the future is to build a more peaceful place for all of us because, I mean, it's just absurd, like, what kind of things divide us. So thank you, and I hope this is going to be I hope this is going to be further interesting to you.
Me as well. Just keep it. Thank you. Maybe send it a little bit on that side. From now on, I'm not going to go like in the order how I introduce people because when we were talking about topics we're going to tackle on this panel, we realized that there are several issues or questions we need to raise. How many of you know what's ageism? So 4 hands. And how many of you know, okay, six hands out of 7. And how many of you know what's reverse ageism? Okay, just 1, 2, 3. Okay, I see 3 hands. This tells a lot about the issues that we actually faced as young people when we try to find jobs. And I'm going to go back to Ognen, who is in charge of a huge team and being the youngest boss of big team. How do you handle that reverse ageism? And maybe just tell us what that is. In a sense, people don't take us seriously just because we're younger.
Yeah, so when we're talking about ageism, you know, this is something that the young people are stereotyping and marginalizing older people because of their age, and they tend to think that their abilities are going down. But reverse ageism is something that goes from the other side, when people with more experience when it comes to years, they tend to just neglect younger people. And I remember that before I became editor-in-chief of one of the biggest televisions in Macedonia, in North Macedonia, was that you cannot become an editor-in-chief and be the boss or whatever, even though I don't like that word, or be in charge of 120 people and be in charge of their 120 families, because you're very young to do that. And at the same time, you don't have a family of your own. So you don't have kids, you're not married, you're very young, you're very impulsive, you're very aggravated by things and very fired up on many topics. And then you just try to, even though some of my colleagues weren't much older than me, like the youngest older person than me was 5 years older. So in a way, it's not that much. But you just try and put a lot of effort, I mean a lot of effort, in just giving the people enough material that they're not right, that you can do it, that you will put all of your efforts in it, and then at the end you will be burned out. I was burned out by that. So after several months, nearly a year, I stepped down from being editor-in-chief because I've been working for 17 hours a day. And I just saw that being in charge of why don't we have enough toilet paper or who is stealing the makeup is something that I don't have a passion about to do. I'm not passionate about finding criminals in a way. I mean, within the media, about criminals outside the media, yes. And this is something that I've been always been teased about, because I started when I was 11, and there were few people which believed in me, and thanks to them, because they gave me the chance, I'm still working on television 25 years after, and believe me, it is very hard in a society like ours, and I'm not talking particularly about my society, about the country where I come from, but I'm talking in particular the Balkan society, to be a young person with all the knowledge that you know, with all the experience that you gather, because we do gather experience, we do have knowledge. I mean, I'm not young anymore, but still, I remember those times. And not giving a chance to the youth is very wrong for our societies. And our society would not strive, our society would not grow if we don't give a chance, if we do reverse ageism.
Thank you very much. Even sometimes it happens, and now I'm looking at you, all of you who are giving jobs, even when it happens that we are given a chance, it happens quite often that we see job openings with freshly graduated with 3 years of professional experience and stuff like that, or when we see an opportunity for internship that will launch us later somewhere in a respective field that we want to deal with, we get an unpaid internship, and we still do 8 hours a day, we still come to work. What do you think about that, Ania?
Well, I don't like it. That's the easiest answer to give. But I would say that, first of all, I would start to like going with the term young people. I think it's necessary to use it as a term, but as it goes into experiences, jobs, whatever, it does not matter. Because I'm not simply a young person, I'm Ania. And if you cannot look at me beyond my age, that is your issue, not my issue. Because if I have given a lot of things to you that you have shown, whether that's experience or capabilities, or whether it's my discussions or my level of intellect or whatever that is required for you to believe that I'm worthy enough, if I've given enough, I don't see how necessary it is to look at my age for you to consider what is good or what is not. And I've realized that the more into inner circles you go, and by inner circles I mean the higher you go, and in these circles that are considered classified, the less you have space. And I'm not saying just to have a seat at the table, but to even be at the room. And to me that is obviously not good and obviously not fair, because if you're making decisions that directly affect my life into this planet, why don't I have a say in it? And why do you only look at me as like, oh, she's just 18, she's just 20, what does she know? She doesn't know anything, she hasn't lived life enough. Well, you also might be, I don't know, a certain age, 40 or 50, and you still have not seen the world in the way that I see it. But I don't judge you for it. I don't say that you do not deserve to be in that position that you are just because you're 50-year-old and you've already been in that position for 5 decades and you've still not given what is supposed to be given. I don't say that because that's rude if I say it, right? But it's not rude when someone says to me that you deserve to not be heard, or you deserve to not have an opinion, because what do you know? And you know, we in English, such a vast language, English, has a really nice surname about it, and it's called patronizing. So if a person ever judges you because you're 14, you're 15, you're 18, you're 20, whatever, just turn it back, reverse it, and then judge them about their life choices that they've made until they are in that age and still have not done enough. Because if you have the opportunity to be rude at me about something that I have not even chosen, then I think it's the same for me. That I have the opportunity to be rude at you because you do not see me as a person, but you see me as a number. And I know that everyone who has been considered as a number in the history of humanity, it always ends badly. Always. So, and about unpaid internships and all of these other opportunities, well, I think that is very abusive as a practice, because if you're offering unpaid internships to young students who barely have enough to eat and have barely enough opportunities to put things at the table, then you're basically just using their intellect, you're using their creativity, you're using all their fresh perspective that you so much strive to have to make your business or your institution successful, and you're just saying to them, well, now you can just die. So to me, it's not, it's totally unfair, and I think there should be practices, and even starting from the UN in itself, that is an organization that preaches about equality and importance, yet offers unpaid internships. Starting from them, it's important to have an already established practice that offers young people the true opportunity to grow, and not just because we're young, but because we deserve it. And I've been enough positions, thankfully, in my life to see that my peers and my friends have such bright and creative and beautiful ideas, and they have the passion to change things and to move and to shake things up, but what they don't have is support. So if you don't give people support, you know what happens? Nothing. That's what happens. So it's always very important to do that.
Really, really, really good lesson. When we were talking about this topic, Dimitrije had a really nice remark, as I can remember, because you're doing, let's call it big thing, and things that gonna affect a lot of life. How do you evade the possibility of, you know, being refused just because you're young, or being refused just because of something? Is it okay to send, when applying for a job, to send a CV without a picture and age inside, or just to put name, last name, and then go with experiences?
Well, I think here I see, you know, direction moving into the discussion moving into two directions. First one is the youth participation that you've mentioned, and the other one is, of course, the professional work. When it comes to the youth participation, I really think nowadays we certainly have more opportunities for young people to sit at a table with decision makers, to voice their opinions, and even vote. Unfortunately, you know, having had experiences with co-management and various bodies, I also see that, you know, from our side as young people, we sometimes take these opportunities for granted. And then we appear in front of, you know, governmental representatives unprepared. We don't make our statement, and we don't use the opportunities to you know, to really make a change. So I'd say there was also a little bit, you know, fault on our side, that when we have the opportunity, we need to prepare and use the opportunity. This is when it comes to the youth participation that you've mentioned. On the other hand, when it comes to professional experiences, certainly age is something that they always look at. Unfortunately, these days, these 3 days, we didn't have time to go into the topic of digitalization, for example, which I find super interesting, especially the artificial intelligence. Because here in the Balkans, we don't consider it as an important topic. But actually, artificial intelligence is already impacting our lives. And fortunately for us, you know, there's already some international organizations that are working in the field of, you know, regulating artificial intelligence. And this is precisely the thing when you say, you know, you send your CV, and for example, for huge companies that have these system softwares that scan your CVs, if the software doesn't count enough like number of working experience, or for example, if it doesn't find keywords or something else, you're not even going to be considered. So they're not going to see you actually. They're not going to give you the chance to, you know, present your accomplishments, your skills, or anything, because, you know, the system, the software has already, you know, put you on the side and has eliminated you from selections. So, you know, digitalization is, for example, something that we oftentimes forget to discuss. And then finally, when it comes to actually, when you get the opportunity to present yourself, I'm realizing if I turned on the mic, right? No, it's on. It's on? Okay. then, I think it's about, you presenting your accomplishments, your skills, and your value. Because at the end of the day, you need to be skilled at something to get a job. And then I know a lot of young people who actually do have experience and who get opportunities to do the work that they do. And I think those young people are the ones who get prepared, they work hard, and then once they get the opportunity, they actually take the opportunity. And I think that's super important for all of us.
Thank you very much. I'm wondering, like these things that we were mentioning since the beginning of this reverse ageism part of the panel, is it just a Balkan thing, or something like that happened to you, Domenika, as well?
I was not that such a wonderkind fellow panelists. So I think I was more going by the experience. So when I was, I usually started from internships, and then I was offered jobs.
Paid ones?
Not initially, no. But as we mentioned, I was fortunate, privileged enough that I was supported by the parents, so I could afford during the school work on internships, which is another problem, that we work and we are kind of pushed to do internships during the studies, which takes a lot of time and focus from that. I think this is an issue of our Faculty of Social Science, that actually if you come out as a freshly graduated but you don't have any experience, then it's hard. So you're kind of sacrificing the time you would study harder to do the internship and the work practice, so then you do have the experience on paper and you can get an interesting job just after you graduate. But I have seen it with many friends from different youth initiatives, that they are facing this, that they are grow very fast in their position and they are being neglected for the fact that they are young. But my experience is that when you show that you have the abilities and you carry the values needed for the position, they will let you do it. But maybe I was just lucky.
I think we're gonna next time need more people from outside of Balkans to measure it. Was you were you lucky, or it was actually what you said, that they took into consideration what you did and your experience? I'm gonna change a little bit this topic about ageism and being young into when do we stop being young? Is it like just, when we turn 30, 35, depending on the regulations in the countries or European Union, or there was some moment in our lives when we realized, okay, now we are young, stop being young, we are an adults. For me, for example, that moment was when I paid vacation for my mom. I was like, yeah, I managed to do something now with my life. I'm going to go to Ferid now and ask you, because you just mentioned the same as Ognen, that you're also close to stop being young legally, but when has it happened before, actually?
In my country, it's like 6 or 7 years ago I stopped being young, but legally. So it's because being young in our country is 26 years old by the law. In the EU, I know that it's 30. So it's also in EU I stopped being young. But for me, it's like this is what I'm doing. Like with young people, it makes me feel young, but doesn't mean that you should be young by the age and contributing to empowering of the youth. So it's the idea that you believe and you see that as an opportunity to help other people. So for me, everyone who contributes to empowering youth, even if it's someone that is 15 years old, but do an action of something he is helping his peers and the ones that are youth. So for me, this age doesn't mean, should define who is young or not. It's about like empowering youth. That's really important. And maybe I really don't see myself young, and this would be also for me the last maybe panel discussion where I will talk about youngsters or youth, but it doesn't mean that I will stop doing my job related to the empowerment of youth.
Thank you very much. That's lovely. That's really lovely. I'm going to go to Katarina now, and you're 22, 3. Do you think you're a young adult or young?
Well, I think I'm an adult because I've been living alone since 15. I actually lived in Japan since I was 15 in a dorm. And when I got back, when I was 18, I started living alone. Okay, I live with my brother. We're roommates, basically. But I've been taking care of myself since I was 15. So I think I would say I'm an adult. But the moment, I have this one moment a month ago where I said, okay, I'm really an adult, is when I actually scheduled my own checkups. But I wasn't sick. I just wanted to make like a yearly checkup, you know?
Mm.
And I was like, okay, this is really an adult thing.
Yeah, I'm still not there. If it's not mandatory by the work, I don't think I will do it. I'm gonna continue with you now. Something that all of us some of us measured through the answers. Ognen said he burned out after how many 7 months or trying to run the older team. Dimitrije mentioned that you have to work hard until you get the opportunity and it's like hustle, as we like to say. Ania mentioned some days that she spends binging Netflix and just enjoying. I would consider it mental health thing. And how do we cope with those things? Because unfortunately, had a really older editor who was close to retirement. And when I came to him and said that I'm burnout, that I literally cannot function, I have two brains two monkeys playing jingle bells in my brain instead of any function. He said, how do you mean you burn out? When I was your age, I did this and this and that. And I resigned the next day. So how do you keep that mental hygiene?
It's hard. The pressure is huge. It really is. And it's also related to this whole unrealistic expectations that employers have. You know, when you go out of university, you need to have certain experience and whatnot, which I was always aware of when I worked during university. And it was so hard to catch up, you know, as Domenika was mentioning. It's so hard to study and go to work, and it's just you feel like you're doing everything like with half of your energy because you need to kind of rationalize it so you don't burn out. But it's hard, especially when you're young. As Ognen said, you're impulsive, you're energetic, you want to do stuff, and it's hard to kind of find a nice balance, I think. For me, it was hard. Last year, I burned out when I was working for the UN. Like every two months, I would have like a burnout, and then it would also affect my health. Like I would have a fever or something. So my burnouts were really severe. So yeah, it's hard, and I don't have the answer to this because I still don't think I have this balance. I still don't think I know how to rationalize my energy. And I think it's hard for young people to know because no one really talks about it. As you said, old people are like, yeah, when I was your age, I was so energetic, and no one really like tells you that it's not easy. It's not easy, and they do have themselves, even when older. We all do have it, right? Am I right? So, you know, no one really teaches you how to rationalize with your energy, how to be patient, you know. So yeah, I don't have really the answer to this.
Well, thank you for trying to reach the answer, and I think you said a lot of things. One of them is we all have it. Quite often we just don't acknowledge that we have it, and we don't admit to ourselves that we are actually on the verge of breaking. I want to go to Dimitrije. As someone who's dealing with a lot of policy making and again, quite often when you say like to people, oh, I'm tired after a long day of sitting in computer and just reading, thinking, writing, putting all of that on paper, they're like, but it's not a physical work, you know. That's something I quite often see with myself in my work. How do you cope with that? How do you keep your mental health?
So I'm going to give you a little secret. I have my own guru. He's from India. I've been following him for like more than a year and something.
I'm not sure if he's serious now or...
No, I'm actually quite serious. I think probably the younger, people who feel young in this room who are using TikTok, Instagram, and they scroll the reels, they might have actually heard his voice again in the background of various reels. But his name is actually Masoud Bomgard. Has anyone heard of him? Yeah, you see. So I'm quite sure I'm not the only one. But I'm quite sure I'm not the only one who's actually like listening to his videos, and I must say, you know, they're like 1 minute or 2 minute videos, and they're very good and on point. I'm not really sure that, you know, recalling his advices here on the panel in front of camera would be a good idea, but I would strongly suggest that you go online and then you actually Google him and listen to his advices. But sure, I think definitely it's an issue, especially for those people who are working remotely. Now, unfortunately, the legislation, even here in the Balkans, but even across the EU, still hasn't been, you know, delivered to protect the digital workers. Now, I think it's now in the pipeline of both the Council and the Parliament to work on this. So I think that's going to be very interesting to see how the EU will develop the legislation on this, and ensure that, you know, people who are working online are also granted the rights as people who are working, you know, physically in person. I think Portugal last year, or a few, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, adopted this law where employers are prohibited to contact, email or phone or anything like that their employees after the working hours. So you cannot pick up your phone and you cannot call your employee. And for example, that's something that I find very useful, because if you cannot set your personal boundaries, then at least the law is helping you there to get you safe. But I would say, you know, sometimes we forget to practice self-care and mindfulness, and especially like some of the very basic things. We undermine the sleep. You know, it's like getting 8 hours of your sleep. Now I feel like an adult here talking about this. But you know, like 8 hours of your sleep is very good for both the state of your mind and your body. And actually, you know, doing something that you find enjoyable. I was working with one of the UN agencies, and every week we had a team meeting. It was like a short one. And since we were a small team, and every week we had the same set of questions. And one of the questions was, what was the best thing that happened to you last week? And then, you know, like, I started thinking, you know, I'm working so hard, sometimes I actually forget to allow myself to do something that I enjoy. So ever since then, I started, you know, sparing some time every week to do something that I find very enjoyable, that I can say, oh, you know, like last week I did something that I really enjoyed. So I'd say, you know, allow yourself to enjoy the life. Because if you just work hard and you don't allow yourself to enjoy things, and, you know, you just find your life and workspace and your environment, you know, I don't know how to say, but you have a negative perspective about it, and you're quite often anxious about it, then you really need to change something. And finally, I would say just a few more things. People should definitely try different things. You know, last year in Brussels, I met this guy. He's 52. He was 52 last year. He came in Brussels for a traineeship from Brazil. He has a family, 2 kids, young kids. He was doing some business thing in Brazil, and then he decided that at the age of 52, he wants to change his career, and then he came for a traineeship.
Wow.
You know, he was old, you know, among all of us who were like, I don't know, 25, 26, 28. So do it, you know, it's never too late to, you know, try new things, to, you know, do something different and explore different opportunities, because only then you will find what you actually find, you know, in line with your values, which is the workplace that you find enjoyable, you know, what is the team that you would prefer to work in, how you communicate with them, etc., etc. And I think these are very important aspects of working for, you know, an organization or a firm or a company. You know, it's not only about your pay slips and your salary, it's actually about, you know, how you feel inside. So, yeah.
You're on the path of becoming the Montenegrin guru, I see, with all really good advices you're giving. I'm going to go to Domenika as someone who's working in a, like when someone mentions military for me and army structures, I just imagine like those generals going, get up, good morning, screaming all the time. Like how do you manage to put mental health in all of that, and how do you cope with those people screaming all the time?
Actually, it's true. I come from a very non-military environment. I find myself quite pacifist, and we are kind of like more on the diplomatic side of the Ministry of Defense. So we are, of course, in touch with the army, but it's not like that I'm one of the soldiers. I have to say they treat us nicely because we need to cooperate, and we are trying really to get along and help each other. I was lucky enough not to really face this situation, but I heard from a colleague and a friend who went to a mission as an advisor. He's very, very civilian, and he was there closed for 6 months somewhere in Africa with hundreds of soldiers. And he said he understood there a lot, and sometimes that he just like listened to what he was said, and he had to follow. So it can be quite strict, but of course I think everyone needs to set their own boundaries, and you can always just stand up and leave if you want. So I think it's up to everyone to decide until when you want to face the situation and when you want to like stand up for yourself and speak up.
Thank you very much. I agree, you can always leave. Sometimes it's harder to leave than in other cases. I'm going to go to Ania. Ognen, you're going to be the next, but I see that you're just enjoying listening. For a change, you don't have to talk. Yeah. For weeks, I think now I've been insisting to get to our human resources officer to get emotional support animal into the office, and I still haven't managed to push it to get one, but I'm not going to give up. And why I'm asking about emotional support animal is because I've seen it on TikTok. And Ania, you being the youngest one, like I've noticed the difference between my generation and people who are 12, 13 years, I'm not that much older than you, but people who are much younger than I am and who have been exposed to TikTok and gurus on TikTok and all of that, that they are more relaxed and open about speaking mental health issues, sexuality, feminism, all of that we have found taboo in our society. Do you notice that since you've been moving a lot with older people than you are as well?
Well, first of all, you're on the right side of TikTok because we Gen Zs, we like to joke around about you being in the right side of TikTok or not, and you're in the right side because there is discussion there is mental health, there is feminism. I love food videos and also a lot of things that just make me happy. I think when people talk about TikTok and other social media platforms, there always comes the but. But you have to be careful because they can be really bad or they can grab your attention. You can spend a lot of hours. Yes, I know, I see my screen time, I recognize it, but again, I think that if I go across videos in my feed that make me happy and genuinely, I think it's good. And I think what is also important is that about mental health. First of all, yes, young people, we are a bit more prone to talking about mental health, but it always depends on which young people you ask for. Because we came into this panel and we said that we should not generalize things, and I think it's important to, practice what we preach and not generalize things. Because a lot of young people, especially in different intersection identities, have not access to mental health resources just as much. And this really makes difficult because you don't know, you feel wrong, you feel like there is something that is not going well, but you don't know where to go to or you don't know who to access to. To me, I have this thing, which is basically I try to do one thing that makes me happy on a day. don't think I can relate much to the other panelists because I'm not working full time. I am a student. I'm really young, and I know we said like we should not talk about being young, but you know, I'm just saying that I don't face the same amount of responsibilities that many people in this panel or in this audience do, and that has given me a lot of freedom, which I am appreciating so much. And I have this thing which I just say to myself, you know what, life is short. And yes, I do realize that I'm just 20, and saying that life is short when you're just 20 is like, yeah, but you have all of this thing to go forward and to look up to. And I think what would make me really happy to do today, and I try to do it. And I think having fun also is not just cut out for young people. I think anyone any certain age, whether you're 60 years old or 80-year-old, you can have fun and enjoy, even go to clubs. I've seen a lot of 60, 70-year-old in clubs sometimes, and I think it's okay because the life does not end when you get old, and I don't think, and that also life doesn't end when you're young too. So as long as you do things that make you happy, I think it's very important. But I also recognize the fact that, you know, living in a very much, I will say it, I'm on that right side of TikTok, which is capitalistic society. It makes it really, really difficult for you to have that balance of work and life and to see things in that way. And I think that is what should change, is that we do not prioritize rest enough, and we do not prioritize happy times with people that we love enough, because the system sometimes does not let us, and sometimes we do not let ourselves to do that. And to me, an ideal life does not look like a life like me working in a corporate 9-to-5 job and having this high salary. To me, a happy life looks like a life where I'm happy with my friends and family and with my emotional support pet, and just going through seeing the best things in life, because honestly, when you think about it, of how temporary we are in this existence, prioritizing things that make you feel good over prioritizing things that make other people feel good, I would choose that in every single lifetime. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go back to Ognen now. One of the things that all five of you so far, all five of you have mentioned so far, is that you need to give yourself time. And when I asked Ognen to send me a short bio so I can introduce him, he sent me almost a 2-pager document.
That was a short one.
That was a short one. And it's not only that he's working at the television, Ognen is active in many, many different spheres and activism. And do you give yourself time?
Yes. But not in the way that the other panelists are thinking. So yesterday we had a meeting about the event that we are going to be having at 6 o'clock at this very same room. And one of the participants, Belma, was telling me when I introduced myself, told me, but when do you sleep? And I told her I sleep 4 hours a day, but because this is all I need. Because I've seen myself, how do I cope with my energy? I've seen myself, how do I live with it? And I understood at a very young age that I really do want to work. I love working. I love being with people. I love challenges. And this doesn't mean that I don't love life. My life is by working, but this also doesn't mean that I don't have things that are fun to my persona, that are fun to my inwards and to my character or whatever, and just caressing my soul. I do have an emotional pet.
I've seen it.
Even though, no, not Masha.
Not Masha.
Not the dog. I have a reptile.
Okay.
She doesn't have emotions, but she has Parkinson's, and I'm taking care of her. She was supposed to be living for 8 years. Now she's 13. So there are many things which are quite different for people, and individually you should always tend to find what gives you the best of energy, what saves your energy, what caresses your energy. What things, for example, for me, for my particular mental health, I have these sessions and I'm not offering anything here, don't get any ideas, I have these sessions of me washing the dishes. This is why I don't have a dishwasher. Because for myself, this is a mental health session for my mind. I cannot do anything with my hands when I'm washing the dishes. So I have to be with myself. I can watch Netflix probably on my laptop or on my phone, but still the water is running and the listening is not that good. And I also like to iron my shirts. I also like to do these homey stuffs. I'm not
Can I
into.
move in?
I'm not into cleaning. Just so you know. Yeah, I moved. I learned about taking care of my mental health at a very young age, but not because I wanted to. When I decided that I want to be what I am today, I was very young, and I was bullied a lot. People were throwing stones at me. They were just teasing me all the time, physically and verbally. And I was upbringed by bulliness in school, on the streets. So I got these phobias where I couldn't walk around the city because I was afraid of being attacked all the time, just because I was very different. More colorful than the others, more vocal than the others, and because I wanted to be on TV. And I ended up in the ER quite a few times because of that. And my parents just sat me down because there were times when a 12-year-old boy comes from the streets at home crying because people are bullying it physically, because of something that I didn't understand why is that so different and why it gives them the idea of attacking me. And there was this one day when I came back home crying of people harassing me on the street, of 3 to 4 years older than me. And my parents sat me down and they've said, listen, there is no other way to explain this to you at this age, but you decided that you wanted to do a public, to be a public figure, that you wanted to do a public job, to be on TV, to be always on the screen and in front of people. But at the same time, you should understand that behind, so I'm going to translate this now from Macedonian, but behind every good horse, a dust is being raised. And you should learn how to gallop through that dust and being held up, because the dust will always be there. And I took that and I learned and I coped with that, and here I am 25 years after, I'm still doing the same job. And what you said in the bio about me, the call-in shows being the stamp of my career. So a call-in show, for those who do not know, but you have seen it for sure, is where you have a host on TV and people are calling them by phone and talking about politics and economy with the host. So my everyday situation is being harassed by someone on social media, on every profile that I have, with death threats, with things and so on. But these are not the messages that I take for granted. I mean, I take death threats for granted, very sure and very, very serious. But I do not take them and leave them to shape me as a person. They do not shape my life. I take all the other messages, even a very kind one word where they will write you like, I love you, I see you all the time, I like you, you don't do this very good, but I do support you because you are different from the others. And these are the messages that I take, and I just leave those messages to shape me in what I am. So yeah, believe me, washing the dishes is a very good treatment for your mental health. And on top of everything, this will be very brief. I'm not explaining anything because everybody knows that. Music. Music is my first passion in life. I wanted to be an opera singer, if you haven't noticed. but I didn't have the money for it. Because maybe I am a white European man and everything, but I didn't have the privileges of having the money to do what I want, and I had to support my parents from when I was 18 because they didn't have any money to live. So yes, music was and still is the only thing that keeps me energized all the time. So I'm sorry to the neighboring rooms on the 6th floor, whoever is right next to me.
Thank you very much. A lot of, I would say one expression in English, but I don't think I can use profanity here. Is it okay if I just a little bit? Deep shit. But a really important one, really important advice, as you said, and you mentioned about your parents and what they told you that you chose what to do. And in a concept note of this panel, and I want to split it like 3-3, starting from Katarina this time. What was the best advice you got for your career? And from Dimitrije on, the most stupid advice you ever got for your career?
Tough question.
Yeah? Did you just woke up one day and decided, oh, I'm going to go to Japanese flying school?
Well, yeah. Actually, no, I honestly don't know. I honestly think the best advice I am still being given is to be patient.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, I'm an impatient person, but let me think.
Television doesn't take slow.
Sorry. I'm blocking now.
So I was just joking. Everything is okay. Take your time. We can come back to you if you want.
Please, let me
Yeah.
just think about
Okay. We can continue with Ferid.
Okay. It's like a quote that I heard it really long time ago, and it's like that if you do not believe at you and your actions, why the other side should believe. So that's a quote that really helped me a lot throughout the life and the job especially, because also if I couldn't believe that I could come here onto the panel and talk to this audience and keep them all like listening us, we shouldn't like do it. So it's first thing, you should believe at yourself and what you're doing. If you want to make other side believe at you. So this is the quote that I really like, and it's simple, but it's really, I think also it's linked with Ognen, what he said. If he doesn't believe at himself and these messages, supporting messages, he wouldn't be here. So this is for me.
You ready?
Yeah. So I want to bring a small gender perspective here. Because I grew up with a mother who is a very tough woman. She's very independent. She is a dragon, like literally a dragon. And her whole life, she grew up in a very progressive family. She was very progressive, but she had this always male attitude because she was taught that if you don't act like a man, if you don't, have power trips in a sense, you won't succeed, which is somewhat true. But what she gave me as an advice, we talked about career, and I was telling her that it was difficult for me to cover up my emotions and my empathy, and that I think that I'm too vulnerable sometimes. And she was saying like, I'm someone who actually did that my whole life, and I realized that is complete BS, if I may say. She said that it's much easier to do that than to be vulnerable and empathetic in your work. So she was saying, I think you should completely embrace that and forget all these kind of, expectations that you should hide your emotions, not be friends with your colleagues, and these kind of things. And it's working out for me. Like, I realize that it's important for me to work in an empathetic surrounding. Like, for example, in the WVF and the UN, I had amazing colleagues, and we got along perfectly. And it's strange for me to imagine a kind of work environment where people are not talking are very kind of constricted with what they share and whatnot. And so I think this was the best advice I got, to that vulnerability is actually a strength, that it's not a weakness. And that's what I really that's what I really like, embrace every day.
And you just showed it in practice, because just 2 minutes ago you were confused, and then you came up with really, really amazing and really important piece of advice. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your patience.
Ania?
Yeah, okay. Best advice, I don't think I've been given, because I've been given something that is much better, which is mentoring. I love mentoring, not just because I am being mentored by people that are so wise and have so much to give, but because I love the idea of mentoring. I love the idea that, because it basically embraces what Katarina said, like empathy. It embraces that you don't take that selfishness with you and grow. You channel growth through another person. And is there anything more beautiful than seeing another person grow through the cumulative wisdom that you've gathered through your life? So I think one of the best things that can happen to you in whatever field or profession or any kind of engagement that you ever wish to be is to first either mentor someone that you really care deeply about and you want to see them progress in their field. And these are my mistakes, and I don't want you to do the same mistakes that I've did, because I've seen your potential and I've seen the things that you can do and the places where you can go. So I will tell you how to do this, and you can take my advice or not take it, but I want to see you succeed. And I think it comes from that really heartful place of wanting to see another person flourish, which is beyond your sphere of influence, beyond you. So I love the idea of people going beyond themselves and helping people and loving people, because I think the best thing that makes humanity is our capability to love and care and to see each other grow. And another thing that I've really taken is nuance. In the world where oftentimes things are divided as black and white, and suddenly the middle ground is just disappeared in the air, I've learned that things always have a nuance behind them, and things are not always as they look. And sometimes, rather than just judging or saying, oh no, this is so wrong, this is totally not my cup of tea, or I don't want to do this, and I'm not even going to try it, taking the approach where you're like, okay, I see this, but maybe this has a side that I have not considered before, or maybe a perspective that I would have liked to change. Now, I'm saying nuance about things, not about like human rights violations. Like, we have to be clear, like some things are desperately wrong and some things are concretely right, but in every other field where humanity is not directly involved, as in my human rights and my bodily autonomy, everything else gives space, and allowing that space helps you so much in growing as a person. So these are my things.
Thank you. So just before we continue with the not so good advices, we will have, if you have questions, prepare them to be ready to ask. We will have some 5 to 7 minutes after we finish with the 3 next answers. Please, Dimitrije. Not gurus didn't help with this.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. I've received so many good and bad advices when it comes to career. I would say definitely one of them is stay at your job even if you don't like it, because it's stable, secure, you're receiving salary, etc., etc. And I must say, if you guys have never tried it, resigning from a job position is very liberating. So at some point in your life, do it, please, just for the sake of trying it. And then maybe the second advice I would say is, your academic qualifications and even skills to some point are gonna, speak for you. Unfortunately, nowadays, I think networking is more important than both skills and academic qualifications, because you really need to network a lot to be able to actually see the opportunities and even get recommendations for different ones. And I think through these connections with other people, you get to do that. I would say we all have our unique pathways, career-wise, also you know, generally our paths are different, and I would say, you know, there is no right or wrong. It's just unique. It's your pathway. You need to decide what's the best for you. And in that regard, allowing yourself to actually develop both personally and professionally is going to help you a lot.
Thank you.
I will actually follow up on that. I think one of the funny advices was when I was around 13 years old, and someone told the generation of my parents and my friends' parents in our hometown that it's great to be a dentist. So everyone got this recommendation that it's a good thing to do, you know, to study for, and it was just out of context so much. So I think the best thing is the exact opposite. Just follow what drives you, what excites you, and then you will be good at it, and you will enjoy it, and you will find the balance much more. So this was so random.
I would like to bring out the gender perspective here, but from the reverse gender perspective, not the one that you're awaiting. So even though I've been raised in that particular manner from both sides of the families, when I got my first serious, professionally serious job with a contract within the budgetary state institutions, which is still the National Macedonian Television and Radio. I was 19 or 20 years old. I became the youngest anchorman in the history of the national broadcaster. And I was very, very bored because I've been reading news at 5. Then I had like 3 to 3.5 hours of break, and then I've been reading news at 8, and then at 11, and at midnight I was going home, or in the morning the same shift. And whenever I was walking around the hallways of the national broadcaster, people were always asking me like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm bored. I'm searching for something to do. I cannot do anything. Why are you doing this to me? And the advices that many of my colleagues gave to me were, why are you bored? You have so much spare time. Your job is only to be beautiful, well-dressed, and to speak nicely, and that's your job. You don't have anything else to do. Like, you should take care of your skin, iron your shirt, and go out there and just read. And I said, this is not a job that I would like to do. I mean, it was unpaid for a year and a half, even though it was a contract. So I've been budgeting the budgetary institution as a student. But that was the stupidest advice that I received, and that gave me so much perspective of what the colleagues of mine, the female colleagues and the hostesses, are always receiving as a commentary. Your job is to be beautiful. Your job is to have a nice hair. Your job is to fix your makeup. Your job is to be dressed well, and that is your job. You don't have to think. You're not asking for anything else to do. You're doing what you're told. You're reading what someone else has written for you, and that's all. You don't have a brain. You're just a puppet. And I didn't want it to do that. And also, that is why I just started working with the NGO on gender issues, because I just wanted to help my female colleagues, but also my other male colleagues, even though they're very, very few in this field of work, just not to accept that kind of idiotic, that's not even stupid, that's idiotic advice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, there is a question already prepared.
Gender balance.
Fala-te.
Hi, thank you very much, really. It was so inspiring. from all of you in your interventions. I have a question for all of you. Which one is more difficult, to take the stage or to stay at the stage? Thank you.
Or stay on stage. Yeah.
For me, it's always
There's a mic on the table, just in case for the people to record. The team, yeah, the team is recording.
Okay, so for me, even now, after so many years, it is still the biggest stage fright that I get is when I take the stage. Staying on the stage, that's easy, believe me.
Anyone else who wants to give an answer to this?
Okay. I will just. Well, to me, it depends. If we're taking it like literally as in stage fright, like it is obviously taking the stage, which is the hardest step because it's the first step that you take, and first steps are always the hardest steps. But if we're talking about, as in the name of the panel, of young people taking the stage or maybe into something bigger, it's staying in the stage. I think it's actually both. It's first taking the stage as a young person. Sometimes it's really hard, depends on what stages there are. And staying in that stage when everyone, like let's imagine that everyone here thinks that I'm unworthy to be in the stage. So if even I'm right here in the middle of the panel and everyone that surrounds me thinks that I'm not good enough, that I will not make this job good enough, and with their hostility, which is certainly not the case in this case, but like in an imaginary case, it makes it really hard to be in the stage because it's isolating. And it goes to show that even if you're in a room full of people or in a stage full of people, it still can be isolating for you to be in that stage when the people do not believe in you, even though you believe in yourself. So I think when you say that believing in yourself is the first step, yes it is, but if that believing in yourself does not get enough external support, it will just be a singularity existence. And humans are not a singularity existence. So it's both.
Thank you, Ania. Ferid, you wanted to add, Dimitrije, as well?
Yeah, I will be short. So, Ms. Tahir, I think on the political context, it's like really hard staying on the stage. That's the thing that I see. But like on the other occasions, it's like taking that first step to get on the stage. It makes you kind of emotional. Even if you think that you're prepared, you know everything, it gives you that kind of, but staying on the stage, I think, is the harder thing.
I want to agree with you. Well, looking at my experience now is, okay, I got to the stage, I presented myself, which was okay. And then we started speaking, answering questions, and I was like, oh, I forgot to say this, I forgot to say that, maybe I could add this. They're so much better than me. I suck. I just didn't say anything. I couldn't think of an answer. It's just such an anxiety, so I would say staying on the stage for sure.
Okay, I actually wanted to ask you, are you working in HR or something? I would say I wouldn't necessarily agree about politics that it's much easier to like take the stage rather than to stay. I'd say when it comes to politics, especially here in the Balkans, I think it's much easier to stay on the stage than to take the stage. But in general, I would say it's maybe equally demanding, especially if someone is evaluating based on what you're actually saying and based on the quality of your input.
I would just keep it general that I think the first step is the hardest, and then you're already in the process and you don't think about it anymore, I think.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. Anyone? Okay.
You are wonderful. I'm a manager in a private company. You were all complaining that you are underestimated about your age and your experience and unpaid internships and everything. So I have advertised for a new manager who is 60 years old, and in 2 years it will be retired, and I need replacement. I want young person who will bring some freshness in the company, but you are without experience. I work in the textile industry. You're out of that. How will you convince me that you're the one? It's not a question, more like your experience. No, you talk that all the obstacles that you have. So we have young people here, and maybe later with the broadcasting of the videos, probably a lot of them will listen to you. So more advice from you as experts in your fields.
Anyone want to go with this?
Just press the black button where your thumb, press that.
I would like to take the easy route. Okay, so my answer might be totally, you might take it in consideration or not, but what would I do is that I would use 3 months as trial to see if they can gain enough experience or if they can, get the rhythm of the job. And in this 3 months trial session, I would try as hardest to do the mentoring part, which we discussed that was necessary. And then if the things in this 3 months go extremely well, there it is. I think what oftentimes is missed when jobs require like 3 years experience yet fresh and creative ideas is that people get intimidated when they look at this job advertisements, and because there is always like that voice in Katarina which said like I'm not good enough, I'm not doing good enough, they don't do it. So if you take the chance and you say that, hey, we're willing to hire you, and we're willing you to make you part of our company as this certain position, but first, why don't we agree that we have a 3-month trial run and see if you can fit into our company well enough. I'm not saying that this 3 months should be unpaid, because I'm against unpaid internships, and that's still labor. But maybe you can, have a certain agreement about the wage. It might not be the full wage for the full position, since it's not still in the capabilities, but it should still be a living wage, because if that person has other capabilities and other responsibilities in their lives. But to me, it's always nice to have a certain trial run before you fit into the position. And I'm sure that many of us who have had jobs or other things would always love to have a certain of a prerequisite before we went into that job, so we know what we're getting ourselves into. So that's what I would have done if I was a certain HR or in management. But yeah.
Maybe I'll try to complement. I think the market is changing a lot nowadays. So I'd say the very first step would be you convincing me to work for you first, and then actually me applying to work with you. But second of all, I think even if there's a graduate applying for a position now, I'd say managerial position, it's very hard that you will give someone managerial position if it's just a fresh graduate, but sure. I think we need to be also open to these kind of opportunities and thinkings. I would say, we can always look and see what the other person has done throughout their life, through extracurricular activities, through volunteering or unpaid or paid internships, etc., etc. Because, some young people, once they have graduated, they already have plenty of experience and some accomplishments that they have achieved not through having working contracts, but having done something else. For example, if you have a young person who, for example, fundraised 100K for something, or who has done, a TikTok reel, and, that went viral and is being viewed more than 100 million people, and you're looking for someone in communications, then I'm quite sure that that person could maybe actually have some skills to help you with things. So I would say there's always something else that you can look and see what candidates can offer rather than just academic qualifications and number of working years.
Katarina, and I think we should wrap up because people are getting nervous and I need to smoke as well.
No, I just wanted to share actually a situation I had before I worked for the UN. I got in contact with, I'm in the student organization, and through this organization we had some project with some association called Belgradzani, and the head of the organization, since we were cooperating, he was very impressed by how I was managing all the whole situation and how I was delegating tasks and everything, because I was the head of the marketing sector for this organization, even though I had no clue how to do marketing. I was just delegating stuff. But he was impressed, and I told him honestly, look, I really don't know. He wanted to hire me. And I said, I really don't know how to do this. I'm just delegating. I know I have an idea what's supposed to be done, so I'm doing it, but I don't actually know how to do it myself. And he was like, no, don't worry, I'll mentor you. And he really convinced me for 6 months. He actually was emailing me all the time. He was very persistent about it. So I said, okay, but you need to pay me. Like, I'm not gonna work. I know I'm inexperienced in this, but you're aware of that, and you want to mentor me. But I still want you to pay me. So I started working, and a month passed, and there were no results, because obviously I was doing my best, but he lived in Germany. We couldn't communicate all the time. There was very little space for actual mentoring. So I was thinking, okay, maybe it will be better, it will produce more, but he refused to pay me after a month, and we didn't have a contract. So I left. So I was questioning afterwards whether I was wrong, whether I really didn't put in too much effort, but why did this person kind of chase me for 6 months, employed me, and then refused to pay me? I was so confused by it.
What Ania said, you should always ask what is yours. Yes, I don't have the experience. I like the job description, and I would like to try. So 1, 2, 3 months paid, maybe minimum wage, but
Yes, and I asked for the minimum. It wasn't something extravagant. I said, okay, give me 3 months, pay me this much, and then we'll do it based on performance. But please mentor me, because I have no idea, I have no clue how to do this. Yeah, I always have a contract. That's the moral of the story.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to finish, wrap up before repeating their names once again. A few weeks ago, I have read an article that Gen Z doesn't even want to apply to a position if the paycheck is not stated. So that's something we should also pay attention to, and something you could implement when finding even a new general manager. But people from my left side, Katarina Popovic, Ferid Murseli, Ania Sauku, Dimitrije Jovicevic, Domenika Vondrackova i Ognen Janeski. Hvala vam mnogo, thank you a lot. Falimenteri šum. I hope you enjoyed, and let's go have a break.
The next event starts at 6.